Thanks so much for joining us here for the First Look seminar. We're here each and every week previewing some of Saturday's racing at Santa Anita. For this week, it'll be a look at the late pick 5 sequence for Saturday, April the 25th. I'm Gino Bacola alongside Frank Scatoni, Sure Shot, and we have a smaller crew today. Frank, our guys, Chappie and Skippy, they're too cool for us. They're going to go watch Dodgers Cubs tonight, so they're going to get to go watch a cool baseball game. But you and I can still hold down the fort. We've got some great racing coming up at Santa Anita. How's everything going on your end?
Yeah, I think it was the great rapper slash philosopher Rob Bass who said, it takes two to make a thing go right. So as long as there's the two of us, we're going to be just fine. Everything's great. I'm looking forward to another great weekend at Santa Anita Park. The quality of racing it's been phenomenal. We were joking right before we got on air. I took a tough beat in the last race today, but you know what? Here I am. Turn the page. Horse player mentality. We're right back in the saddle. Let's go. Lots of money to be made tomorrow.
You swallow it, right? There's always another race coming up somewhere, and we're going to have a pick 5 sequence coming up. We're also only a week away from one of the biggest races each and every year, the Kentucky Derby. So on Saturday, they will actually draw the fields for the Derby and the Oaks. So by the end of Saturday, you'll have the past performances out for Kentucky Oaks Friday and Kentucky Derby Friday. I know everybody will be diving in over the weekend. And next weekend, there will be a So Happy t-shirt giveaway. So Happy had his final workout today in preparation for the Kentucky Derby. So best of luck for the horses that'll be coming from Santa Anita and from Southern California. But Frank, we need to pad the bankroll. We need some money for next weekend. There are going to be big pools to wager in, big fields, and we're going to hit this late pick 5 sequence. So if you want to follow along with us, get those daily racing form past performances out. Let's head to race number 5 where we start things out, Frank. And in this one, we have an optional 32. This is for 3-year-olds and up that have started for a claiming price of 25 or less over the last couple of years. 6.5 furlongs on the dirt. The 2-horse Red Flag, I think will take a good amount of money in here. Just looking at some of the horses that he's been facing as of late, this just seems like a massive drop in class for him. We have a wild card like Malibu Coast who has some layoff lines, but some good races before that on the turf, not a whole lot of dirt form. That horse is a massive price. Once you got beyond Red Flag, though, it's sort of like him and then another tier of horses. And I think a lot of this race kind of comes down to how do you feel about Red Flag and how are you going to stack your tickets up with him starting this late pick 5?
Yeah, I mean, look, Red Flag clearly is on the tail end of the career, right? He's an 8-year-old. He's had an awesome career. He's run against some really good horses. He's run some monster races. Came back this year and ran 2 really, really good races in a row against much better horses. I mean, look at that 2-back race, Cornucopian. I mean, Cornucopian would be we'd have to owe the track money if Cornucopian was in this race and won. So obviously the horse to beat, but look, kind of a dull effort last time for a horse who had posted 2 strong buyer speed figures in those previous races. Now down for 32. You know, Mullins is no dummy. He's going to put the horse where he thinks the horse can win, but that might be a red flag for Red Flag. Yep. But that being said, I mean, how could you not use this horse? Because if he runs even 80% of his, previous 2 races, he's the winner. And then I agree with you. After that, the drop-off is pretty precipitous. But I think of the top of the next tier for me would be number 4, Mega Moon. Sure. Hit the board a few times at this level. Sprinting on turf, routing on dirt. Very, very versatile horse. Likes to be forwardly placed no matter if it's sprinting or routing. So he should be in front of Red Flag turning for home, right? The problem is he's been off since May. It's a very, very long layoff, but he's in good hands. That April 9th bullet work from the gate signals very, very good intent. So I will single Red Flag on some of my tickets, but I will also come back and use Mega Moon as well. And then after that, it gets tricky. To your point, the 1 has good turf form. And then if you look at the bottom horse, the D'Amato horse, former stakes winner at a younger age. So it's maybe it's tougher than I think it is, but I'm pretty logical here.
Shout out to everyone watching us on all the different social feeds. We're on the Santa Anita live feeds, and we also are over on the America's Best Racing feeds over at ABR. So hello to Dan and Alexa and some of the friends over there at ABR. when you're talking about Red Flag too, it's just, this is the type of horse that we want to try to line up to beat if you can.
Yes.
The second part of that statement is the most important part, if you can, because a lot of sometimes the races just don't have the other options or that many great options. There's one horse I'll mention after Red Flag, but like looking at his last 3 races since they claimed him for 50, he won. Then he finished second behind Cornucopian, who you mentioned. Cornucopian came back in his next start and won the grade 2 and won the grade 3 San Carlos. And he's going to go and run in the grade 1 Churchill Downs on Churchill Downs weekend coming up next weekend. And then in the next race, Simple Song and Comedy Town, I think Simple Song earned a 91 buyer. Comedy Town is grade 2 placed and a multiple stakes winner. Those races are just much better. And it does feel like 6.5 is probably his trip too. Like, this gives him a little bit more distance to rally. So yeah, I think, the favorite's one that I'm not going to line up to try to beat in here, but I will give you one other horse along with him, Frank. The wild card to me, because I kind of get the sense that I know most of these horses. Mega Moon would have been one of the others I look to. I'm going to the 6 Hey Brother. So this is a horse who, you go back earlier on in his career, he had some really good races at Santa Anita against maiden special weights that had some serious buyer speed figures. You could see he broke his maiden going 6 furlongs on the dirt. He ran third at 7 furlongs. He's a horse that at least we know he can get up to like an 85, 90 buyer speed figure on his best days. Then what happened? He's got some layoff lines. You see, he's off from April to August of 2024. He's off from August 24 to January 25. He's off from March for a full year, March 25 to 2026. But he actually ran well off the bench at lower levels. They've been just being really putting him in softer spots that he could really handle. I like it that second start back after this long layoff, they said, you know what? Let's step him up a little bit in this race that once we get beyond Red Flag, nobody really scares you all that much. He could be in the mix early. He has enough early speed to be there, Frank, but he can finish a little bit too. When I'm going through the rest of this field kind of process of elimination, I mean, for example, Whiskey, Gin, and Brandy, who's like the second choice on the morning line, I think, Red Flag trounced this horse a couple times. So I'm kind of looking for other horses elsewhere. And to me, Hey Brother's kind of a wild card. He's sort of a new face because we really haven't seen him around all that much over the last couple years. I think he's an interesting horse to use, but yeah, I'm kind of 2-6. It sounds like you're kind of 2-4.
Yeah. I think you'll know right away how Hey Brother is going to fare in this race about 100 yards out of the gate, because if he is alone on the lead, which I think they're going to just have to send this horse, and Whiskey and Brandy's not pressuring the horse, I think you'll have a very good shot, because even though that was a $10,000 claimer last time, that was a really, really good race, a very sharp race, and he was protected, right? So yep. Lee had a plan when he started that horse there. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. But again, to your point, if it's not Red Flag, could be a couple of other ones. It's going to come down to how you structure your tickets and what you can afford to do or not.
Yeah. And like we've pointed out a few times too, what's nice now with some of these options that we have with the late races, you can do things differently. How you want to start the pick 5, then play the pick 4, then play the late pick 3, right? You can, people talk about it like hedging, but maybe just use different horses and different combinations in different ways, right? I'm not as much of a hedger because I like to kind of really capitalize on my strong opinion, but I absolutely play some different tickets. And if the right combos hit, right, I'll nail them all, right? And I think that's how a lot of us play.
Yeah, and that's something that I learned doing Double Trouble Live, because we focus on the low takeout wagers, the $3 all turf, the $3 late pick 3, and the $5 late double. And we view them as pieces of the same wager.
Yep.
From our bankroll perspective. So you could use 4 horses in the first leg of one of the combos, but then single that race in like your late pick 3. So you have coverage in one bet, tighter in the other, and then spread. It's taught me so much about ticket construction. And look, there's many ways to skin a cat in this game. We can come up with the same horse to bet on from a million different ways. Same thing when it comes to cashing a ticket. Someone could do a cold pick 3 or a caveman pick 3, or I could have 10 different pick 3 combos going, and we could all cash. So it's figuring out what you're good at and maximizing those strengths in these multi-race sequences, starting with the late pick 5.
I'm not sure if we're hosting a handicapping show or maybe we're in an Italian restaurant tonight. Texas Terry says hello. We got Bacola and Scatoni. Sounds like people are going out for some pasta tonight for dinner. Hopefully, if you're hanging out with us at home and watching, and a big hello to Dean. Thanks
Terry's
so much
Terry's my better half. She's the brains and the beauty behind this operation.
I thought the significant other. Absolutely, no problem. So nice to hear from Terry and nice to hear from Dean out there. Always want to send a comment if you have a selection you want to share with us.
Yeah.
Well, I'm hosting the show here. I can monitor and pull up some of the comments here. Sometimes I think that's a little too much for Chappie, but I can actually I can swing that still too. What's nice is I'm even taking shots at him when he's not here to defend himself. That's even better, right, Frank? Because he can't chime in right now and defend himself.
I wouldn't expect anything less, man. You don't show up on the show. It's open season.
Okay, let's turn the page. We're going to go to race number 6. This one kicks off that late pick 4 sequence. We're going to be going down the hillside turf course, first level allowance race. And in this one, we have a favorite on the morning line who hasn't raced in 11 months or in 13 months now, over a year. This is Lonesome Stu, who last raced March 30th, 2025, and is 8-5 on the morning line. And he's really important because most of his races, he's showing speed. His last start, he did not show speed. He was slow out of the gate, and he came from out of it. So we know he can adapt a little differently. But in this situation, being a fresh horse too, he's probably going to go. There's not that much early speed in here. It looks like it's kind of him and rearm John down on the inside, maybe one other horse here. Frank, how do you see this race setting up? Who are some of the horses on your radar in the 6th?
Yeah, obviously, Lonesome Stu is the key to this race. That is a long layoff. I am not crazy about that, but if there's one trainer that I get along with and I'm simpatico with who can win off a long layoff like this with a sprinter, it's Mark Glatt. I mean, I think he does a phenomenal job. You mentioned So Happy at the top of the hour. I'm so happy for the Glatt family to be on the national stage after being such a strong presence here in California, and rooting for them to bring home the roses for Southern California. But I have to take a stand against this horse. I will use the horse as a B, but I think if we beat this horse, it opens up a lot of things for us in the rest of the sequence, right? So I agree with exactly what you said about the pace. Rearm John is fast. It's going to go. Lonesome Stu's probably going to be fresh and keen off the layoff. Prezu is phenomenal judge of pace. He'll be right there with Rearm John. And then maybe that long layoff starts to get that extra half furlong down the hill.
Yep.
You get tired, man. You got to be really fit to come off a long layoff and win down the hill. So I've talked about this angle on the show before. I like to handicap from the outside in when it comes to these downhill races. And I'm always looking for horses who have route speed and are now cutting back. Now, there is a world in which this is a prep race for number 7, September 64, because I typically like to see recency with that cutback move. But look, this horse ran in a grade 2 to close out the 3-year-old campaign, been off since that race. I like that kind of sharp route speed from an outside post down the hill. And if you look, I mean, this horse won at 5 furlongs, so he is a capable sprinter. And I just think if this horse is ready, look, I know Pipey's recent stats, if you look in the DRF, only 5% the last year or two off this kind of layoff. But look, we talk about knowing a circuit. If you go back 5 years, Pipey's number off a long layoff was probably 30%. It all depends on the kind of stock you have, right? And what your goals are. So that doesn't bother me so much. So that is absolutely my price play in here. And then number 3, On the Whim, Calbred Stakes winner down the hill. He hasn't gotten that elusive N1X win, which is what this level is. But look, this is an honest horse, tries really hard. I think he's sitting on a peak effort, 3rd off the bench. And, he could also sit like that perfect tracking trip, and he'll get first jump on, anybody else behind him. So 7 and 3 A's, strong plays on my tickets. But I mean, I'm not in the pick 5. You don't have to be a hero, right? You can still use a favorite because you have other legs that you can get crazy in. So I will have Lonesome Stu on some backup tickets, but I'm going to build my day around the 7 and 3, trying to beat Lonesome Stu in this race.
We are going to be very similar in here, Frank. I have 3 horses. I'm going to be using the 2, 3, and 7 as my 3 horses.
Okay,
Also
nice.
trying to beat Lonesome Stew. So you mentioned September 64. You know, if people look at first glance and just see the 1 for 4, those other 3 races he ran are not bad either, right? He just ran in 2 tougher races, a graded stakes race, and then another race that was like a stakes race, going a mile and an eighth. And he did not perform poorly in either of those races after showing speed. He's drawn well. I think he's going to be in a really nice spot here on Saturday. The 3 on the whim, I mean, you start diving into him overall, his overall turf form is just pretty sneaky. Like, he doesn't have a lot of bad races at all. He's going to go 3rd start off the long layoff. He had some legit trouble in 3 of his last 5 starts that you can look at and you can make like a legitimate excuse for why he didn't run a little bit better that day. And most recently, he had some traffic trouble. He was behind a horse named Flyover. Flyover was actually a horse that we see beating our Rearmed John down on the inside also. So, Flyover was a tough horse that got loose on the lead and on the whim didn't have much of a chance that day. That was also in a pretty tough spot. Look who he was behind 2 starts back. Captain Choo-Cheese, who was one of the sharpest horses out there, right? So on the whim, facing some really nice horses now. 3rd start off of a long layoff after he was off about 11 months there. I think the 2 is going to run really, really well. On the whim, the 3, and then the 2, Sir Rocket. You look at the 3 races Sir Rocket has run going 6.5 furlongs. One of them finished 5th, beaten 2 lengths, and was okay. The following 2 were very good. Just missed, was 3rd, only beat ahead that day, and then came back. That race 2 starts back on October the 11th, the California Flag. The winner of that race, Man of Rose, was in the middle of a 5-race win streak.
Yeah, it's a monster.
Second place finisher, Lovesick Blues, is actually a grade 1 winner. He beat grade 1 company in the Bing Crosby in the summer sprinting before that. And then he went and he ran 6th in the Breeders' Cup in a field of 14. Like, he did not run a bad race following that. You keep going through that field. I mentioned Flyover, Cali Cat. They were both in there. They both won next time out. So Sir Rocket was in an absolutely loaded race on October the 11th that had 3 next out winners. I'm going to go 2, 3, and 7. We're using a lot of the 2 of the same horses, and we're going to try to beat the horse who we think will be the short price favorite and use some of that next tier of prices here.
I'd be stupid not to throw in the 2. You make a great case for the 2. I've always liked the 2. If I'm trying to beat the 6, why wouldn't I throw in the 2, right? I mean,
those are the types of horses we're looking for.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Frank and I are going to turn the page now to race number 7. We want to remind all of you, if you're ever curious what's happening this weekend out at Santa Anita, you can just go to the website, santaanita.com, and check it out. I know they are gearing up for a big Kentucky Derby party next weekend, family fun zone, the Derby barbecue, apron picnic. You got the front runner buffet and the So Happy t-shirts. That's going to all be happening next weekend, Derby weekend out at Santa Anita. So head on out there live if you're not going to be at Churchill Downs. Frank, we move to race number 7, 10,000 claimers, non-winners of 2, going a mile on the main track here. From a morning line and odds standpoint, we can start with the 7 to the outside, Lil's Coffee. This horse is taking a pretty big drop in class coming in from Turfway Park, where the racing at Turfway over the last 2 years has really, really improved. It is much stronger. They have some of the biggest fields and most competitive racing of any track out there. And Little's Coffee didn't even run all that poorly last time out against 30 not winners of 2 when finishing 2nd. 3 starts back wasn't bad in a first level allowance race when finishing 3rd. Doug O'Neill's had a pretty good year, and he just seems like he's seeing the ball well and making a lot of right moves. Just starting with this horse, this is the one to beat if he shows up with any of his better races. It's kind of another situation where you have him or her, Little's Coffee, and what do you want to do with her? And then I think you have the rest of the field, right? You're sort of, are you going to shorten up with her? Are you trying to beat her? And then, you know, the other few horses that are contenders in here, they're kind of in the mix in another tier. Frank, how do you want to approach this race, which kicks off that late $3 pick 3?
Yeah, Gino, I agree with you. I will say this, and I've said this on the show too. We're dealing with $10,000 non-winners of 2 lifetime. So these are not, and fillies and mares. So these are some of the least reliable runners on the circuit. And whenever I think a race like this looks formful, it's throw a dart. You know, I mean, like chaos happens. So that being said, I do think this race looks a little formful, but the two horses that look the best have major question marks, right? So to your point, Lil's Coffee, huge class standout. Doug O'Neill, Jaramillo. I mean, this horse is in it to win it today because the ownership group is Run Fast Racing. Okay, so that's headed up by a talent agent named Adam Kluger. And you know who some of his clients are? This horse is named Lil's Coffee. He represents
Lil Yachty,
Lil
right?
Yachty. Yes, and Lil Wayne. So this is the Lil play. Like, this is the pop culture play. I have to think that it's go time for this horse.
They're trying to get a win, right? They want to get the picture taken.
100%. And you know what? They had a nice little run with this horse. I know 1 for 12, but 5 seconds and a third. So this is an honest horse. Can this horse, run well on dirt? Well, when you drop this far down the class ladder, it doesn't matter. So I'm not too worried about that. Absolutely have to use that horse. The other logical one, 7-2 on the line, Exington, re-adds blinkers after fading last time against much better on turf. She isn't much faster than a lot of these on paper, but she's another class dropper, right? I mean, coming out of a 25 beaten claimer, her N2Ls were 25,000, 25,000, 16,000. So she's about as low as you can go when it comes to conditional claimers. After that, though, it's like total chaos. And I am going to have one ticket where I am super spreading on here in case it falls apart. I won't name I'll name the horses, but I won't make cases for all of them. But the one that I'm most intrigued with is number 6, Can't Deal With It. Played for 10 last time. Finished second against similar types at 3-1. That's a pretty good race. She was off slowly. She was well off the pace. She got shuffled back. She was like 3 lengths and then 7 lengths all of a sudden back. She still managed to run nicely late. I know she's never been around 2 terms, but I talk about how I use Formulator. I like to look at the incremental splits. This horse's closing time in her sprint races are very, very good. I believe the trainer used to be Mike Pipey's assistant. So he's a smart guy. I think he claimed this horse, hey, maybe I can get her to go 2 turns. So at 8-1, I'm going to take a little gamble on that. And then if you're really, really spreading, I would consider the 1 and the 3. But this race could really blow things up if Lil Yachty and Lil Wayne aren't in the winner's circle.
What's nice about Can't Deal With It is she's lightly raced. She hasn't been beaten a whole bunch like some of the other horses in here. So you just feel like there's still some upside with her. I think the 7's the horse to beat. Yeah. I'm going to go, I might try to get out of here too deep if I can with the 7 and the 1. You were kind of mentioning the 1 a little bit here. So I'm going to toss the turf races.
Yep.
And I'm going to look at just the dirt races for a Fleet Ride who debuted, won the career debut on the dirt, then was turf, then came back on the dirt, races on the dirt against a little bit better, took a while to kind of find the right level. And then the last 2 races on the dirt are actually pretty solid. 2 starts back, finished 3rd. Most recently, first time dropping down to the $10,000 non-2 level. This exact level was beaten only ahead, had a good start, went on with it, slow fractions early, and was put into the race. And what I like was that's on the drop in class. That happens a lot of times, right? You have this horse that's dropping in class that you think is live. And even if they're not a speed horse, you just put them into the race because you feel like, get them in there. Let's see what they've got. And that's what happened last time with the Fleet Ride. I don't think she's going to be on the lead this time. I think she can sit mid-pack now because if you look towards the outside, Exington's going to go. And maybe a couple of these horses that have been sprinting most recently, like Can't Deal With It, even the 2 on-time girls stretching out. I could see a Fleet Ride sitting 3rd or 4th. I thought that was a really good wake-up call kind of for her at the level. It proves that's right where she fits. She's now going to be able to sit inside, save all the ground. The horse that she beat, she ran 2nd. The horse that ran 3rd came back to went over to Turf Paradise and won. And what happened in that race, she and the 3rd place finisher, they were going head and head all the way around the track. She won the battle, but she lost the war, and she ended up getting nailed late. So she ran really well to finish 2nd in that race after doing all the dirty work. So, Frank, I think I'm going to try to get out of here with 1-7 if possible. But yeah, like we said, these are the types of races that the lower the level is, the harder it is necessarily to trust those horses to give their best effort each and every time.
100%. They go in and out of form, and they don't like to win. Like, to your point, some of these, like 1 for 17, 1 for 21. The other thing, just to piggyback on what you said about the one who's a B contender for me. I mean, Ryan Hansen started off last weekend on fire. So how do you not play a trainer like that who's sending out live horses? You know, like we said, circuit knowledge is very, very important, and we're able to spot trends right before they're happening. So Andy Mathis won 3 races today. He was unbettable for 3 months during the Classic meet. We talked about that. Barns go through cycles. Maybe he was saving his ammunition for this meet. He won 3 races today. So if you can spot these things before the general public does, you will have an edge. And just watching from last week, you know, Ryan Hansen's horses are live. So, if you can spread in that race, well, I'm going to spread. I know you're only going to go too deep, but I'm definitely going to spread because I feel like that could also, like, beating Lonesome Stool and beating Lil's, I forget the name. That could pay boxcars if you beat those 2 horses.
So we will turn the page to race number 8, which kicks off the late double. Frank, give us a plug, because I know you were just mentioning your show. You guys cover that and cover some of the late exotic races. When do you go live, and when can we follow along with you?
Well, we won't be live tomorrow, but we will be back on Sunday to cover all of the Santa Anita low takeout wagers. For those who aren't familiar, Santa Anita was the pioneer to initiate retail-friendly wagers, 15% takeout and higher minimum. And I know a lot of people out there are like, well, I like my 50-cent pick threes or my dollar pick threes. I don't want to play a $3 pick three. Yes, you do. Because that
when you see the payouts, you do.
Better handicapper. Yes, better handicapper, better ticket constructor. And then because of the higher minimum and the lower takeout, these bets pay significantly more than the equivalent win parlay. So while it might be a little bit of a learning curve for you, and I encourage you to watch our show because it was a learning curve for us, but we feel like we have a really good advantage in these wagers. So DoubleTroubleLive.com, you could sign up, subscribe on our YouTube channel, set your alerts. You'll be alerted to all the shows. I'm also on X at Scatoni Sure Shot. Please give me a follow. If you're not, I mean, whether you follow me or not, I encourage you to look at these sequences just because I am telling you, horse players have an advantage in these pools. And if we're starting with the late pick 5 and we're working our way down and you're alive when you get to the late pick 3 or the late double, you have so many options. And when you have these low takeout wagers, you could walk out with a heck of a day.
Let's go to race number 8. We've got Calbred's first level allowance company, optional 20 claimers, going a mile on the dirt course here. I thought this race was tricky because the pace, it could be a little bit murky. I know Cowboy Mike wants to go from the outside. Could see a horse like Majestic Palisade sitting close. Crypto Ride wants to be pretty close. Stolen Treasure, it looks initially like he wants to kind of sit back, but he doesn't really. He kind of wants to run his better races close to the front end. You have Uncle Chili, who's stretching out from a sprint race too. He could be a little more forward in this race. A couple horses that I think are going to come closing and be able to sit good trips in here, Frank. I'll start with the connections, right? Doug O'Neill and Jaramillo with Michi's Express. I feel like this horse can just sit a good trip because he's not a stone cold closer, but he's got a little bit of that natural kind of positional speed so he can sit more mid-pack. So if there is that combination of 3 or 4 of these horses that go, he could be the one sitting in a nice spot. I trust Jaramillo. I mean, those last 2 races aren't bad at all. Finishing second last time out, finishing third 2 starts back. He's now going to go third start off the layoff, third start of the form cycle. I just have a feeling he's going to be in a good spot and he can pass horses. So he's in the mix for me. The other one is the 9, Majestic Palisades, who has shown that he can show speed, but he can also sit and finish. And I like that in a race like this where he can be close up, maybe stay out of some of the traffic. Maybe from the outside, he lets Cowboy Mike go and he can kind of try to follow him and sit second or third and sit close. So those are the 2 that I like the most in here. Both the 5 and the 9, I'm going to have probably through the most of my tickets. I do want to make sure that on one spot somewhere, I have something with the Gypsy Cowboy, because I do think there is like a strange version of this race. If we're simulating it 100 times, maybe 2 of the times they go so crazy early that a horse like this, whose form is a little muddied up, because look at the first 2 times he jumped up, or the first couple races when he jumped up to this level, he actually ran pretty well a few of them. He ran second and third at this level. And then he started getting caught in some races where they weren't going as quick early, or just facing other horses that were pretty good for the level. But here, maybe they go really, really quick, and we know he can pass horses. Even 2 starts back, that's not that bad of a third place finish behind Majestic Palisades, who I was talking about. So 5-9 for me, the 2 that I really like. I thought the fun long shot to get in the mix somewhere is the Gypsy Cowboy. I'll hand the baton over to you, Frank.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head. The pace is very difficult to sort out here, because number 10, Cowboy Mike, to me, is a class standout on paper, right?
Yep.
And if Cowboy Mike is going to run to his best races, there's no way that this horse will be 3-1, because this horse has dominated in these races before, right? And Yakteen is taking off the blinkers, and Giroux, I know Giroux went to the lead last time from an outside post, but that was against much better horses. And I think they probably felt they had no chance but to try and steal that race. Didn't work out. I'm wondering what's going to happen here, because if Cowboy Mike makes the lead, we see with these big class droppers, once they get to the front, they're gone. No one's going to pass them. But I could also see a world, and this is actually what I'm hoping is going to happen, because Yakteen did take those blinkers off. I think Giroux is probably one of the better jockeys in America who can get horses to relax. He's a very patient rider. He's got good soft hands early in the race. If he can get this horse to kind of settle and stalk wide off all of those other horses that you mentioned, who will probably be contesting for forward position, and this horse is this horse, I think he absolutely beats this group. Now, that being said, there's a reason he's going from 50 back down to 20, right? So you have to factor that in. But absolutely using the 10. I am also using Uncle Chili. I know the route is a big, big question mark, but this horse, just in good form, is running some really fast races. Mullins is doing everything right. And if Mullins thinks he can get this guy a win at 2 turns, I'm going to argue with Jeff Mullins. First of all, I'm going to be wrong. Second of all,
I was going to say,
beat the Macho Man.
He will definitely body slam you and bench press you. He will use you for his next workout,
So I'm losing the argument and the fight. So I'm not even going to question it. But again, though, so Uncle Chili and Cowboy Mike, even though I like them, there are serious question marks right around them. So looking a little deeper, I'm with you on Mises Express. My problem with Mises Express is that he hasn't really shown a will to win.
Nope.
But he hasn't been in O'Neill's barn all that long, right? And this is if you look, it's the 3rd start of the form cycle, sitting on a big race. Jaramillo sticks around, and you're right. This horse is tactical. So if they go super fast, Jaramillo is just going to suck back and stalk in a perfect position. And if they go slow, the horse is going to be right there through slow fractions. So absolutely using that horse as well. My wise guy horse in this race, I know you mentioned the 1, and you're right. If it's a meltdown, the one's going to run the race. Just grind it out, and if everybody backs up, the 1 could absolutely win in a race like this if it's a fast pace. But number 8, Fix It Quick. I thought this horse ran like a short horse last time. Was coming off a very long layoff. Was off at 25-1. Was not really expected to do much. I think that horse moves forward today. The problem is Mises Express kind of handled him very, very easily last time. So can this horse improve enough to not only beat Mises Express, but to beat some of the others as well? But again, if he gets a fast pace to grind into, maybe it's a 1-8 Gino Longshot, Frank Longshot, Exacta, And then they were all celebrating.
This is the exact type of horse that the one is, right? It's
Yes.
a horse that is going to pass some horses, but he's more lightly raced, and he had a long layoff between August and March. So maybe he was just a little bit shorter late in that race and could take a nice step forward here, second start as a 4-year-old. I don't mind him either if you're looking for that horse from off the pace. That is race number 8, kicks off the late daily double. We'll finish things up in race number 9 with the grade 3 Royal Heroine. This one is a mile on the turf course, Frank, and we can start the conversation to the outside with the really cool Grand Slam Smile. She is a 5-year-old Calbred who shows up and runs well each and every time. She's an 11-time winner with 6 seconds and then 2 more thirds. And she's faced open company 2 starts back. She was in the grade 2 Buena Vista, and she did not run poorly that day. She finished 3rd behind Thought Process and Vibes. So she then cut back, and she then was in a softer spot. After the grade 2, she went back and faced Calbreds down the hill. Now she'll stretch back out here going a mile. I think you start with her. You have a horse like Tirupati, who could take a nice step forward, second start back after a long layoff. You have Mayday Ready, who is coming off a bit of a layoff, but now in the Mandela barn. You have Take a Breath, who has some good races in the U.S., but maybe wants to go a little bit longer than this. She's been going a little bit longer as of late. Frank, who do you want to be alive to here in this 9th and final?
I have a couple of horses that I will mention. I mean, you mentioned 2 of them, and I'll go a little more in depth, but I also do want to give a shout out to Grand Slam Smile. I mean, you read off her record. She's never finished off the board in 19 starts in her entire career. I mean, if we can't appreciate that, then like we're in the wrong game, man. She's also earned $912,000 as a Calbred. She's almost a millionaire, and she's just a joy to watch run. Now, while she has run well against open foes, she hasn't really won, right? And again, I'm not going to hold that Thought Process race against her, because when Thought Process is Thought Process, she's a beast, an absolute beast. And Vibes is as much of a hard-knocking stakes horse you'll see. That horse shows up every time. So no knocks on that 3rd place finish there. I think a lot of her chances to win are going to depend on what Tirupati does.
My like headline for this race, I kind of, especially when I'm like hosting a show, I'll try to have like a story for the race, or like, how do I set this up, right? For me, it was, can Tirupati and 1,000 Miles put enough pressure on Grand Slam Smile to set the race up for the other horses? To me, that's kind of the key to the race, those 2.
And I think if you're looking from a value perspective, you kind of have to bet it that way, right? Because
Agreed.
Grand Slam Smile is not going to be any value. And if she wins, she wins. Like, I mean, awesome. I'm not going to be mad. I mean, I have her as a B-level contender, but look, she's obviously a very, very strong candidate in this race. But again, like I said, Tirupati is going to have to keep Grand Slam Smile honest. Same thing to you, like you said, with 1,000 Miles. So there are enough things in here to make me think that maybe Grand Slam Smile gets softened up just a little bit, and that sets things up for number 8, Take a Breath. I agree with exactly what you said. She needed every bit of 10 furlongs to get that win. That, and you'll appreciate this. She was my Almendaris before Almendaris.
Oh, okay.
I had been her forever, but I actually won with her last time. Whereas
Nice.
That's
the one.
I've always liked this horse, and maybe I'm being a little too sentimental, but I've always been expecting her to really step up and be an elite horse out here in the graded stakes races, you know. And I'm basing all of that on her first race in the country, the Del Mar Oaks, which I thought was phenomenal for someone. Yeah. And, whatever, you make some excuses, this, that, again, the grade 1 American Oaks, she finished 4th, no shame there. But that was a 10 furlong. So you're right. I think she probably is at her best going longer, but if she gets the right kind of pace setup, she will be flying late. She is super fit. And if you look at her overall record going a mile, she won 2 races
before coming to the U.S. Absolutely.
Yeah, so,
she can do it like with the right type of circumstance. Absolutely. And if you're playing the race thinking Grand Slam Smile gets beat because there's other speed.
Right.
Well, she's one of the horses that you're looking at that's going to come closing, right? It all determines how you think the race is going to unfold. And if that's the case, she's obviously one of the horses that will be closing, right?
That is the perfect way to say it. If you are trying to beat Grand Slam Smile, you are only beating her because you think she might go too fast, too early. So if she does, that means it's going to set up for some, because there's no other way Grand Slam Smile is going to lose if it's 49 and change, right? I mean, like, so you're betting that it's going to be a fast pace. So you have to play the race accordingly. And then you mentioned number 5, Mayday Ready, moves into the Mandela Barn. Decent stint back east. Won a grade 2, the Lake Placid in wire fashion, but she doesn't need the lead. Freysu can put her anywhere depending on the pace that we just talked about. Look, I'm not the only one. I'm not giving any groundbreaking knowledge here, but anytime we see an East Coast turf horse come to the West Coast, no matter what the form looks like, you really have to consider, and this is not a knock against our turf horses out here because we have some really, really nice ones. It's just that the level of competition on a day-to-day basis in turf races back east is stronger than ours. So
the depth, no doubt about it, right? The thing that we still can have in Southern California racing is we can have the highest of the highs, right? You'll see that come Breeders' Cup time where you'll still have horses winning at the highest levels, but it's in the overall depth like this where you're talking about, like, think about sometimes at Gulfstream or at Keeneland, those allowance races that you see that are the level below a graded stakes race, and they're 10, 11 deep. We don't get a lot of races like that out here that are the stepping stone races for these graded stakes. So yeah, it's just a little bit different. And I agree with you because I look at this race and I think just knowing Mayday Ready, she was really good as a 2-year-old. She was second in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies Turf behind Lake Victoria and ran a bang-up race. And following that, they went to Japan with her. And then sometimes it'll just take a little while after a trip like that. And it looks like that's what happened last year. Keep in mind, she was off till June. When she shows up in June, it's in the race where they're pouring over at Saratoga and they take it off the turf. And she's in that 3-horse field behind Nitrogen. Then that's just her first start off the bench. Then she's in the Belmont Oaks. She does not run poorly behind Theon and Nitrogen there when finishing 4th. She comes back. And I think because she had trouble and they wanted to just get her to win, they just put her on the lead in a race where there wasn't that much early speed. And she goes, she's not going to be on the lead in here. She's going to be sitting mid-pack. The main question is, will she be ready? I watched that April 8th work and it was good. And it looked like that was like, I want to get some work into her. They were asking her. It was a good work. They were really riding her beyond that 6 furlong mark. So I think she's going to be ready to fire a big one. I think like if everybody showed up and ran their A game, A race, I think hers might be one of the highest just compared to who she's faced and some of the races that she comes out of. So she's in the mix for me. And I did want to mention, Frank, because I was curious about Watchtower, who we've talked about. And you see Watchtower has a couple of these good races and then a few times has basically been eased and the saddle got slipped, hasn't been able to finish the race. So Watchtower has had 6 workouts since being eased in the Buena Vista, and the connections we're talking. Richard Baltus was speaking to Daily Racing Form, said, "I've done several requirements by the state's vet. She's passed everything. She's been working good. I don't see any issues with her, and that Orantes has worked her enough. He feels very comfortable with him on the horse. So it's just interesting because when she's been in a couple times, she's the type of horse who you think can come closing, but I don't want to take too short of a price on a horse that's obviously had some issues finishing races, but at least it seems like for the moment, everything's okay with her coming into this race. Is she the type of horse who you could build a case for in here?
Yeah, I've always liked her. I was fully expecting her to train on, after her juvenile campaign when her sophomore campaign when she won the Autumn Miss. I thought that was an awesome race. She has a lot of sneaky form, to your point. I mean, I don't know about those races that she didn't finish. I'm just glad the jocks protected her and she's, safe and happy. And look, Baltus has been around for a long time. He's learned from some of the best. I trust he's not the kind of guy who's going to put a horse in a race if he doesn't think she's going to run well, or if there was an issue coming out of that previous race. And I'm glad you mentioned Orantes because look, Baltus is also a little bit of a, he's a little cagey. He's a shrewd guy.
Little Toro Escalante in him, right? Yeah. Yeah.
I was going to say, if like Mike Smith was on this horse, I would X the horse because everyone would be like, well, the horse is doing well. The horse is live. Mike Smith is riding. I think the opposite. I'm like, he may be putting Arantes up because he knows the horse is doing phenomenal and he wants to like throw a smoke screen. He doesn't want anybody looking at the horse because Arantes is running. And all of a sudden the horse sneaks away at 20-1 and wins because this horse is capable of winning a race like this if she can get back to her best form. It's been very difficult for her to do that for whatever reason, but I have her on my list of secondary contenders. My A's are Take a Breath and Mayday Ready, but to the point, if we're trying to beat Grand Slam Smile and also Tirapati, I mean, you have to be alive. I probably won't use her on my pick 5, but I will use her in my doubles and pick 3. So that's when I say when we talk about playing these bets together, this is exactly the kind of horse that I don't have to make my pick 5 ticket more expensive by adding her because, I mean, she is a long shot, let's face it. But in the late pick 3 and the late double, I can absolutely use her. So if she wins and I'm, if I'm alive to her going into the last race, I know what I'm going to get paid. And yeah, I mean, I'm surprised she's so short on the morning line at 6. I don't know why, but whatever, but, we'll see. But I'm actually glad you mentioned her because I've always really liked her. She just hasn't really fully put it together.
Tirapati looks like a player's second start back, probably one that a lot of people will be using in the mix as we finish. Yeah, and as we finish things up here, big thanks to Chappie and to Skippy always. They're hanging out over at the Dodger game. Dodger Dogs, drinking some beer, send them over our way. But no, all joking aside, Frank, it was a blast sitting here talking with you for the last 45 minutes or so. Always love picking your brain on these races. Thank you to everyone for hanging out with us. Don't forget, that late pick 5 that we went over, it starts in race number 5 tomorrow at Santa Anita. Then next week, you can hang out and watch the Kentucky Derby live at Santa Anita. And the draw for the Kentucky Oaks and the Kentucky Derby will be tomorrow. So we will know exactly what that field looks like. Everything will be set. Frank, this is like a really fun time for all of us horse players. We are going to have a lot of races to handicap and to study. And I look forward to talking to you next week where we're going to be talking Santa Anita, but we're definitely going to be thinking a little Derby as well.
Lots going on, man. It's the best time of year for horse players because now we got Triple Crown, summer racing, and then before you know it, we'll have the Breeders' Cup. Like, let's go, man. Let's crush it. Let's win on all bets. And thank you always, Gino. I really enjoy talking to you. Like I said on the show last week, I'm not just a guest on the show. I'm a viewer as well because when we kick it around, it helps me zero in on things that I may have overlooked. So I appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Frank. You can hang out with us each and every week on Friday, about 10-15 minutes after the last race goes official. We'll be here live previewing Saturday races at Santa Anita. Have a fantastic weekend, and we'll see you back here next week.